Shut up and sit down.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening from wherever you're listening across the world. Welcome to another episode of Just Ball Things, doing his weekly, facial routine, making sure you get all them blackheads. Jackie boy is the J-Man, Jack Manuel. How are you, my boy?
Blackheads, black shirt.
Yeah, or you're black everything. Yeah, you really represent.
Let's not turn thing into some sort of Nick. No,
You're
Nick,
representing Jackie boy. My name is Nick Busink, and mate, I did my laundry. See, they're gone.
Oh, no, behind the scenes, he did.
I moved them.
You bum.
Oh, now they're all scrunched up. I do need to do my ironing, Jackie boy, but I'm a lazy man. I have an iron. I don't have an ironing board. So this is my life, Jack.
The dilemma there is, what should you have purchased first? Should it have? It's like the chicken and the egg situation. Should it be the ironing board that you purchased first, or should it be the iron that you purchased first? I mean, the iron is obviously the more expensive product. Do you want to get that big expense out of the way? It's like pillows before the actual bed. I mean, you get the bed first. I think this is actually a bit of a dilemma here.
It is a bit of a philosophical question, Jackie boy.
Philosophizing, whatever the fuck the word is. Sorry, guys.
Philosophizing.
I'm the big philosopher. That's not a real word.
Philosophizer. We do love Shaq. That is a good question, Jackie boy. I mean, we obviously you buy.
I'm gonna put a poll out there to
obviously
this
you buy the iron first, because that's exactly what I've done. Oh man, life. Adulting, it's hard, Jack. But once a week, I can escape, chat to you about basketball, and just have some laughs. You know, that's what it's about. So, we'll start off here. As always, you can contact us on Twitter at JBTNick or at the J-Man JBT. We're also closely affiliated with OTG Basketball. They've got an awesome podcast and YouTube network where you can keep up to date with all things NBA. Make sure you give them a follow on Twitter at OTG Basketball and a subscription on YouTube at OTG Basketball, which I'm sure you're all on because you are watching this podcast in the video, a vodcast. Hey, is that a thing? I feel like I just made that up. Anyway, that term should be coined, a vodcast. Oh, amazing. Facebook.com/JustBallThings. Give us a like and a follow there. And jbtpodcast@gmail.com if you wish to partake in the emails. All right, Jackie boy, we'll get started here because it's been an exciting week. We've progressed in some playoff rounds. We've had some turns and other things.
Any twists?
No twists, just turns. For those of you who are new, we're in the Busink Manuel scale. This is a JBT creator scale that sums up how likely things are to happen in the NBA. We scale it on alternative fact, Twitter fact, Wikipedia fact, or just a straight up fact. Jackie boy, this first one, Giannis is closer to Shaq than being a superstar wing. So superstar center as opposed to superstar wing.
Yeah, Nick, for me, this is pretty close to a fact. We got the video playing in the background. A nice sort of breakdown and analysis, I guess, of the three-point shot of Giannis Antetokounmpo over the years. And, I watched it pretty intently, and I took some notes, in preparation for the pod. I'm actually a person who does preparation for this podcast, unlike some people who... But in saying that, obviously, we know the physical gifts that Giannis has. He is a great god if we've ever seen one. And the pure physicality that he does show reminds you of a prime Shaquille O'Neal. He's obviously also a pretty shit free throw shooter, like prime Shaquille O'Neal. And I actually do think
that Shaq as bad as Shaq at the free throw line. Is he?
Have you seen him these playoffs?
I've seen his... yes, okay. But
we're talking... There was like a video on the Blue Wire Pods network, which I'm a part of with the Brooklyn Buzz, and they had a side-by-side video of Usain Bolt running the 100 meters and Giannis taking one free throw. And Usain Bolt was quicker than Giannis. I mean, I could run 100 meters quicker than freaking Giannis takes a free throw, to be honest. I run in probably like 18 seconds. But in saying that, the three-point shot, and I guess I'm not going to go with James. As much as me wants to go with James Harden, sort of go full on slander and say, it doesn't take any skill to do what he does and just jump and dime and just dunk on people. We all know what that quote is. I'll let my boy do his speaking when he comes back, hopefully in this round, if not going forward. But his 3-point shot to, I guess, sort of take a turn there, Nick. We're sort of seeing some video here, and it's a video worth watching, while you're listening to us, or check it out on B-Ball Breakdown's YouTube. The fluidity early on in his career in his jump shot, it's quite smooth. Like there's no hitch. It's not Markel Fultzy or Michael Kidd-Gilchrist-y or old Lonzo Ball-y. It's actually quite fluid. He's got a dip. The rhythm between his legs and his arms and his shooting motion is all quite rhythmic. And after his first season, his rookie season, it just went all downhill. And I think we all probably know what happened there. Jason Kidd happened there, and overcoaching happened there. Whereas, he obviously came under, the European system of tutelage and coaching, where they just on, I guess a purity in how they play the game, in their coaching and stuff. Whereas, you can imagine what Jason Kidd was trying to do, and all these sort of other coaches behind the scenes with Milwaukee. If you see what he was to what he is now, he has his elbows out like he's got like a chicken wing going on, and he sort of like throws it. Like, I have a bit of 3-point shooting motion than he does. Joakim Noah nearly does, to say the least. That's probably gone a little bit too far. But he doesn't have wing skills, Nick. We even saw the other day in Game 3, in that absolute slog of a game against the Brooklyn Nets, where he has Blake Griffin isolated. Blake Griffin, not the best defender in the world, let alone isolation defender. And Giannis can't cross him up or get any separation from him. The handle is mechanical. I mean, he has a decent Euro and a decent spin move, but there isn't a lot of X's and O's to his game. And I'm not saying you can't get that, because he's an incredibly hard worker, and a guy that's turned himself from like a fringe NBA player, 15th pick, sort of just, on a dime sort of NBA player, to being a generational, one of the best players in the history of that franchise since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm not saying he can't turn into somewhat of a wing, but I think that the way he's being coached even right now by Budenholzer is not utilizing his capabilities. He's not a good isolation scorer. Middleton can do that a little bit. Drew can do that a little bit. Get him on screens, get him on rolls, get him using his physicality, his athleticism, his speed, his skills, his strength, like Shaq did in his heyday, and like Giannis has done. It is what is touted him as being a 2-time MVP and a multiple defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah, I am with you, because we even see it in his current game. His best games are the games where he's putting on his best Shaq impersonation. It's not when he's, taking 16 or not 16. Sorry, that's a bit much. 8 3-pointers in the last game.
8 3-point shots against us. Like, that's a
They
good
won
shot.
that game, Jackie boy. I just want to put that out there.
Like, if you replace 7 of those shots with, attacking even free throws, you're getting more points per possession if you're taking a free throw, even with how bad his free throw shooting has been. It's like him and Ben Simmons just forgot how to actually take one of the easiest shots. Like, even I could shoot free throws.
Come off it. The easiest. Fuck that. That's not a thing, Jackie boy. I hate that take. It's not the easiest shot in basketball. The easiest shot in basketball is uncontested layup. Everyone knows it. Free throws are difficult. They can be, especially. It's a massive mental thing. Everyone knows that. I'm not going to go through into the science of free throws. The guy's 71 on career. That's not awful.
That's good.
That's what I mean. So, like, when you were saying that he's as bad as Shaq from the free throw line, I'm like, I'm not quite having that. Anyway, this series for sure. I mean, and especially lately. Maybe those numbers have been boosted up it would actually be interesting to see his decline of, I guess, his not effective field goal, but his free throw percentage over the years. And lo and behold, his best free throw shooting seasons were early in his career, but he was taking, obviously, a lot less. So that does have an impact. But yeah, as I mentioned before, his best games of his life have been when he's been just dominant inside.
And Nick, I've got a stat for you, because I know I like to steal a bit of your stats and do a bit more of your research. His field goal percentage by percentage this season. If he's owed 0 to 3 feet, He's at 84% from the field. And like last season, he was 78%. He's gone up 6%. So it's just like, you know what to do, Giannis. And whether it's a combination of Budenholzer not, implementing enough sets for him, or Giannis not having the awareness to go, okay, I've got Blake Griffin here. Blake Griffin isn't necessarily Drew Holiday or Draymond Green. I can take him here and I'll bully him down low. I mean, not necessarily bully him, because I think Blake has a really good low center of gravity. If it's Claxton, he can probably do that a little bit more. But and you compare that to his 3-point percentage, which is 30% on the season, and has been even worse in this postseason. It just, I don't know, Nick. I guess it's just almost these guys are way smarter and way better at what they do than we are. So it just feels like they should have that awareness. And I hope Game 4, by the time this is out tomorrow at 5 a.m. when I'm watching and waking up early on Queen's birthday, that Giannis doesn't go off. But he has had a good series against us. It's just that he's bailed us out a couple of times with some of his shots. Yeah.
Milwaukee in those, I guess, first 2 games were quite disappointing. They've been disappointing. They've been disappointing all series, and it comes from the top down, I think. And which is Giannis. You mentioned the stat over the past 3 years, he's close to 80% from 0 to 3 feet, which is
Exactly.
it is who he is. I mean, the guy is a physical specimen. He is so tall, powerful, and the whole. I guess he's not as built solidly as a Shaquille O'Neal, but his versatility and just his quickness is amazing for someone of his size. And to underutilize that from the 3, which I understand it's a changing game. A lot of centers, you see Brook Lopez making that shift from inside, where he was never especially amazing at.
He was very good. Trust me, Brook Lopez was an amazing post player and still is.
Okay. All right.
But I don't disagree that he's him.
I think he's found himself a much better place in the league now than he was 5 years ago, with the Brooklyn Nets. I think he is much more suited to be that stretch 5 almost. Stretch 4 or 5.
That past year or so, which has been a bit weird.
If you can knock down those shots, but this is where I'm coming from. Obviously playing with Brook Lopez, Giannis, seeing the importance of that 3-point shot in the past 4 years, obviously has, wills him to take those 8 per game and he wants to hit it. He wants to be better. But he's just so dominant. I mean, it's the same point with Joel Embiid. When Joel Embiid's jacking threes, you're bailing an offense, you're bailing a defense out with the pain that he can make, that he can give you inside. I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing, and it's something that he definitely should be leaning into more, especially in the playoffs when every game matters. Take a few games in the regular season, jack up 10 3-pointers. Who gives a shit? But the playoffs is winning time. You need to stick to. This is where the mid-range becomes so important. A statistically god-awful shot, but for some people, it's cash money. These sort of weird plays start to come to light in the playoffs because it's a different game. It's the regular season does not count for shit in the playoffs. What you did then compared to what you do now, and he definitely needs to punish the lack of bigs. To give the Bucks a fighting chance.
And I think that, look, a part of me still think that this is a series, and obviously we are guaranteed at least 5 games, if not 6 or 7. But speaking to, I guess, the overall archetype of Giannis's career, on this series as well, he's hit 4 threes, 4 of 32, 12.5%. So yeah. I think that whether he eradicates it totally from his game, whether he finds a decent coach in the offseason, a personal trainer or something, or someone within the Milwaukee Bucks staff to go, okay, we want you to be shooting, mid-range fadeaways. Utilize, maybe a nice little spin move. And he has done that a little bit, anywhere from like 10 to 12 feet around that sort of free throw range, around the elbow sort of range. He looks okay there. Do that. That's fine. And work your game in and out. That's what you should probably be doing, despite the fact that, he started off so well, at least mechanically in his rookie season, as we've seen from this video. We need to scrap what we know about what he did in the past, because he's learned. He's almost like a sponge. You can just tell that Giannis wants to be coached, has a desire to be coached, and almost takes things on too well. We know about the stories in the offseason of him shooting his free throws and getting into a routine. And, every time he would miss a free throw, he would have to run his partner would have to run a suicide while holding, their child together. Thankfully, I don't think that that's still happening in Milwaukee or at Barclays Center, after the game or whatever, or else that poor child and that poor woman. But saying that, I expect Giannis to come back next season, with maybe an array of moves that we didn't necessarily expect to see. We sort of know about LeBron James, and sort of, after the 2011 series against the Mavs, it was sort of like, what is LeBron here? Is he just this physical marvel that can do whatever the hell he wants? Well, now he's got this low post game, and I think Giannis can get that. There isn't a fluidity to his game, though, and I think that comes from just a history of basketball. Compare, say, Kobe Bryant or Kyrie Irving, who were like born with the basketball in their hands, which is why they have this smoothness and creativity to their games, compared to Giannis, who is through no fault of his own, somewhat mechanical in his movements, at least with, the handle and I guess the creativity to his game. I don't think he can necessarily teach that, but I think he can get some reps under and learn from maybe like, some and Hakeem Olajuwon, learning some post moves from him and some other coaches and such, and then sort of go from there. Maybe a Dirk Nowitzki, they get his sort of tutelage, or Tim Duncan or whoever else it might be. I think Giannis is going to be fine in the grand scheme of things. He's going to be one of the best 50, 100 players that we've ever seen, and he's won 2 MVPs, and I think that they're in a decent enough space in Milwaukee, and the series isn't over by any stretch. I'm trying to remain a sense of objectivity, and we'll get to the Brooklyn Nets in a little bit, and not necessarily the series overall, because we want to do some big picture stuff, because evergreen content is a little bit better and lasts a little bit longer when we do a weekly podcast. But Giannis is fine. Do you think, Nick, I guess before we do move on, that he can, I guess, diversify his game going forward? Or do you sort of think that he is, he is a center, and that is all he is going to be, and he sort of just, his skill is going to be based off his physical prowess?
The guy is a 2-time MVP, and has progressively improved every single year, bar maybe this one. But even then, there are arguments to be made. What I want to see, I think it echoes more or less what you said. Sub 20% of his shots are from the 3 to 10 feet range. Those are feet, right? We're dealing imperial. Imperial. And that is not enough for me. Even if he is dominant enough to get within 0 to 3 feet, I think the regular season is the time to shift and change. And I would love to see, and we've seen it attempted a few times, not to any real great success, the sort of Kobe fadeaway would be tremendous. The get them on your back, just outside the key. Yeah. Talk to Robin Lopez. I mean, the man hooks out of his mind. Talk to Brook.
Brook has great low post moves. Brook Lopez is one of the best low post, skilled players in terms of, his just fluidity and understanding and going, okay, he doesn't necessarily have this smoothness to him. In fact, I think he does. It's just him. Yeah, the Lopez brothers are great down there. But yeah, we've divulged enough, I guess, about Giannis here, Nick. But so we'll move to their opponents in this series and play me that Brooklyn bits of music, please, big fella.
Smooth stuff there, Jackie boy. From one side of this series to the next. The Nets, well, it's not really about the series, but it's the team. The Nets shouldn't force a Spencer Dinwiddie return. Guy's looking good, Jackie boy. He's
play the video, Nick.
Good. Oh, yeah, I'll play the video. Yeah, let's do that. You do your spiel.
I'll spiel, mate.
And I can push the wrong button. Oh god, I'm in all sorts. There we go.
It's funny. I'm in a couple of Nets group chats on Twitter, and one that I was in yesterday. A guy, I will not reveal my sources. I actually have sources now. It's kind of fun. he revealed that there's going to be some Brooklyn Nets news at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which was 2 a.m. American time. News that I woke up to was this Spencer Dinwiddie news, in that he hopes to return for the finals, and there is a growing buzz, part of my pun, Brooklyn buzz, that he may actually return. We've sort of seen him, and we're seeing like some of the hashtags, and we're seeing him work with his trainers. We're hearing the video. We're hearing all the behind the scenes stuff about the fact that he's like weeks and weeks and months ahead of time. Spencer Dinwiddie on the Brooklyn Nets right now would be remarkable. Now, you just automatically replace Mike James or Landry Shamet with Spencer Dinwiddie, and oh my God, you have like a guy who's perennially a sixth man of the year. He's fringe all-star candidate. In seasons past. In Brooklyn too. The one thing is that it just ain't gonna happen. I don't think, Nick, is because of the conservative nature of the Brooklyn Nets training staff and the organization overall. Now, I don't think I think that's a good thing in general. I don't think it's a good thing for them overall, because I think Spencer Dinwiddie isn't long for the Brooklyn Nets organization. I doubt that they're going to be able to keep him and Bruce Brown and Landry Shamet and all these other guys all on the roster without paying a ridiculous luxury tax that only Golden State can dream about. So while I think that there is a chance, and even if it is just on the bench, he's seen him and James Harden dap up, and Jeff Green. Hopefully Jeff Green isn't along for the bench anytime soon, in saying that as well. But I think, trying to speak from the other side about if he does come back, look, I think that Spencer is pushing hard. I think he wants a chip. He wants to be a part of that process. Now, it is the finals, and they're talking about the finals without the Nets even making the finals just yet. They've got 2 more rounds to get there, and nothing is a guarantee. So maybe it would benefit him if the Nets don't make it, so he can focus on a long-term. He had his injury in December, coming back July. It's not unheard of guys coming back from ACLs in the nature of 6 months, but normally it is a 9 to 12 month injury. And I think that recently we've seen guys come back quicker than, say, even 5 years ago. I think that the series of the ACL injury and knee injuries in general was much more profound. So that's why a part of me does think, and Spencer has had a history of injuries that he's come back from and shown and proven him. Like, that's the reason why he was the castaway in Detroit and in Chicago and in all these organizations. And Sean Marks is like, you know what? We got something here. Yogi Ferrell, you can piss off to Dallas and Sacramento, mate. We're sticking with Spencer. And he has built himself into being a guy that's going to get a nice and chunky payday in the offseason. Is he willing to risk that just to play 12, 15 minutes a game come the postseason? I think he is. I think he has a desire to. He's a hooper. All these guys, James Harden, I think, would be playing right now.
They all would risk it. But it's not their decision.
Exactly.
It's not their decision, and the medical staff need to be responsible, and this isn't a game for the medical staff. They're dealing with these guys' futures. And I think there's been a massive shift over the past 5-10 years towards that. Gone are the days where, sign off this guy because he's medically fit to play this game. Just because we need him. These guys recently, for sure, they've taken precautions to see these guys either create a long career for themselves or think about their future outside of of sports. I mean, we're not just talking about the NBA, but it's all sports. The AFL has taken some amazing steps with concussion for that exact reason, because life outside of football for these guys, when you've had one too many concussions. I mean, NFL, we've seen the effects. Look
at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant as well, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. Like that
buzz around possibly returning to the bubble, and he's taken 18 months to like 2 years off, and we're seeing him now be the best player in the league. We've had that discussion on last week's pod. Check that out. It was a really fun discussion.
He will still get his ring. Like Dinwiddie. Surely Dinwiddie will still get a ring.
Aldridge might get one as well, Nick. We might give one to Norvell Pell and Iman Shumpert.
Yeah, why not? Rings for all.
Trey Roberson, some of these guys. Who knows? But yeah, I'm fascinated by it, because I think it is it's not going to be a conversation that derails or hijacks the Brooklyn Nets postseason and their aspirations and their goals. But I think it is a fun little wrinkle to keep an eye on. And we certainly will on JBT as well as the Brooklyn Buzz. And I'll be intrigued to hear my guy Nick Faye's thoughts on it when we have a chat on the Buzz tomorrow. But it is fascinating, Nick, because Spencer Dinwiddie is almost an entity to himself, like, because he's also representing himself. He's no longer represented by an agency, so the decisions that he does make, about his contract, about his off season, about what he does with his future and with his long-term, short-term future, are all on him. Now, that may have changed at some point in the past, that I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember the last time reading that he is now representing himself. So it's going to be an interesting. Obviously, there are so many interesting things about this Brooklyn Nets team, and you just add that to the many layers of parfait that is the Brooklyn Nets.
Ooh, mate, you speaking my language, Jackie.
Parfaits are the most delicious.
But no, this is an alternative fact. Sorry, this is a fact. They shouldn't force a return. But this is the whole Zion thing, mate. If he's ready. Why not? What if he's? I mean, exactly. We're flipped on this. So if he's ready, and he's deemed medically fit, and we're not talking Anthony Davis medically fit, medically fit. We're talking,
did the finger thing.
We're talking a Kevin Durant medically fit. One that is truly ready to start. And if that's the case, I mean, if he is miles ahead, he was looking good. He actually gave me some good ideas for exercises myself. There are some good plyometric exercises in there that I've been that I was like, oh, it'll be good. I'll be dunking in no time, Jackie boy.
That's what I want to hear. Speaking of dunks, I don't have a really. It's a kind of good segue. Donovan Mitchell. No, it's not a good segue at all. But I need to find something. I need to get better on my segues. I was good last week. This week I haven't been as good. But Nick, Donovan Mitchell, and I got this off Twitter. Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker are on the same tier of players as Jayson Tatum. Now, we did see Jalen Rose put out his top 25 under 25. I know that Corey and I have been chatting a little bit about the top 50 and the way that Devin Booker has elevated himself in this postseason, as well as in what he did in the bubble and the regular season. Donovan Mitchell, same thing in the bubble and now in this postseason. Jayson Tatum, obviously, his 50-piece and his series against the Brooklyn Nets didn't discourage any of his lovers of his game. But I guess, Nick, if we're sort of ranking these, should we just do like a mini DBS within the episode?
Could do a mini DBS, yeah. I mean, we said this a couple of weeks ago. The playoffs are where players are truly born, and you give me this take a month ago. When did the playoffs start? 2 months ago. During the regular season, then there is no way in hell that I'm putting Donovan Mitchell in the same echelon as Tatum and Booker. But the playoffs make fools of us all. And it's not the first time I have been mistaken on a take. But the guy's a straight killer. This guy is a straight killer, and I have loved Donovan Mitchell since his rookie year. He is on the same level of me as Morant in terms of excitement. I think he's just such an exciting player. And what really stood out for me early was his dunks. The guy's small and can dunk with the best of them.
Did you actually see, Nick, as well, that John Morant sort of hinted at that he might do the 2022 dunk contest?
Hey,
yeah.
Nice.
So your boy...
That'd be awesome.
You need to become a John Morant stan. I like this. I like this from you. Standing the dudes who are just athletic and crazy as hell. You got Westbrook
Westbrook has changed me, Jackie boy.
He has. It seems.
I'm a changed man. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably... And, recency bias, playoff bias, I'm probably dropping Tatum.
You are stupid. Okay, go through your... I'll criticize your stupidity.
I'm starting Booker. Booker's been unreal. They're currently 3-0. And I guess maybe Chris Paul exacerbates the success of I don't guess. I know that Chris Paul exacerbates the success of the Suns. But, I mean, we saw what that guy did in that closeout game against the Lakers. He had a tremendous series then. the guy's been doing it consistently for what feels like 10 years now. Not in the playoffs, but like he's been in the league forever. God. So I'm starting Book. I'm starting Book. I've got a soft spot. And Mitchell, recency bias, call it whatever the fuck you want. But I'm benching Mitchell and I'm dropping Tatum. He's out of the playoffs. He's out of my team.
All right. Where do I start? Yeah. All right. Where I start is that the most valuable position in the modern NBA is the wing.
Yep.
And Jayson Tatum is that.
Yep.
And he also is as good, if not, okay, I'll say is as good as, I think Devin Booker actually might be the best shot creator of these three, but I don't think Jayson Tatum is far off.
You reckon?
In terms of individual shot creation, you got like one possession, 10 seconds, you give the ball to someone. If we're DBSing that skill in particular,
I honestly think Tatum has that, despite the fact I've benched him. I've dropped him. I do think that I'm flip flopping here, Jackie boy. But there is so much Kobe in Tatum, and that's obvious.
Look, and he trained with Kobe in the offseason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think that Devin doesn't need the Kobe tutelage. He has that running through his veins. And he's scored 70 points in the past, and Jayson Tatum can do the same. I think Jayson Tatum has gotten better at realizing his size.
He scored like 30 points from the free throw line. Let's put that out there. 70 points was tremendous, but I'm not going to open that wound.
Just the individual ability. Like, I think that Booker's got a tighter handle, and I think that handle gives you ability to create separation. And then I think the fluidity and purity of Devin Booker's shot is a little bit more. I love Jayson Tatum has a move. Like, he's got the sidestep three, which is almost unguardable. Not necessarily to the level of James Harden's step back, but in a way that is just, it's amazing. Because the dude's like 6'9", 6'10" as well. And that also, I think, plays a part in it. Because I think he is more unguardable than the other two, and given the fact that they are 6'3" to 5" shooting guards. Jayson Tatum, unless he's got Kevin Durant, unless he's got Draymond Green, unless he's got Giannis Antetokounmpo, is nigh on unguardable in a lot of senses. And also, Nick, I know you don't like to talk about defense. Jayson Tatum is all NBA level defense, whereas Devin Booker has gotten a lot better. And I think a lot of that is Monty Williams as well as the Phoenix Suns system, and having like great defenders around him, and Mikal Bridges.
I think that's evident in Ayton as well. The system is
his improvement there too. Having a good backline defender certainly does help that. But Devin Booker is the worst defender of all these players. Donovan Mitchell, I think, is the streakiest. But I think if you say, if he say all these guys get switched onto, say you've got them on an island, and you're like, all right, I need to sort of get a switch, and whom I want to get a switch on. I'm avoiding Jayson Tatum at all costs because he guarded Kevin Durant pretty well in our series against them, and has done so Jaylen Brown probably would have done a decent enough job, but Jayson Tatum is the best two-way player, and he's also done this in postseasons plenty of times. He's also done it in big-time regular season games. A game that springs to mind is against the Los Angeles Clippers, where it was the coming out party. He scored like 40-plus points. He was outplaying Kawhi Leonard. Again, a regular season game, but he also had the 50-point game against us. A team that shouldn't have been anywhere near the Brooklyn Nets in terms of the talent disparity, but he willed them to a win in TD Garden, and that performance was remarkable. So I'm starting Jayson Tatum.
I was going to say you wound up Booker, and you were talking him up, and I was just like, is this guy going to start Booker? Are our lists not that dissimilar? But they are very dissimilar.
No, mine is completely different.
I assume you're dropping Mitchell, benching Booker.
I'm benching Booker and I'm dropping Mitchell, only because the disparity between Mitchell and Booker is the shot creation. And I think that is probably the number one skill you need to have in the NBA. In the postseason, when it becomes half-court offense and the defenses truly lock in different schemes and they sort of try to hunt and isolate you and throw your best defenders at you, who is going to be able to create a shot better? Now, Donovan Mitchell has been out of sight from the perimeter. He's turned into freaking like Steph Curry, and he's like bounce. Like it feels like he can get a shot from anywhere there. But I do think that there is a creativity, a rhythm, and a diverse bag that I think Booker has that is a little bit deeper than Donovan Mitchell. But Donovan Mitchell is a slightly better defender. But I think, again, this is are they in the same tier, to go back to our conversation, Nick, and sort of finish it off? No, I would still say Tatum is in his own tier. I think can win an MVP once in his career. Maybe we'll be in that conversation. All NBA, all of these guys are all NBA caliber. But I think Tatum individually probably has separated himself a little bit. But Booker and Mitchell, come next season, postseason, or the regular season, whatever, I could be eating my words and happily changing my mind.
Love your takes, Jackie boy. They are calm, collect, well thought out. And you send me this stuff, and I'm just like, I
love that. That's the energy, mate. It's the yin and the yang. We balance each other out.
I'm giving Mitchell a lot of props in the same way for Morant, and I feel like there's a bias here, Jackie boy, somehow. But I am giving Mitchell some props for what for his leadership that he's shown on the Jazz. He's obviously surrounded by some very quality players as well. I think he might be the best
leader of the three, Nick. I don't discredit that.
I do love what he's been able to do from day dot. And the same with Morant. From day dot, he's been the leader at the Grizzlies. And this guy's been the leader for the Jazz. And so I am giving him props there as well. Booker, I mean, can't sing enough praises for the guy. He's been doing it for such a long time. But you're right. You are 100% correct in Tatum's two-way ability. And I honestly just completely disregarded defense, and I do not know why. See, this is the thing, Jackie boy. I give my take. You tell me I'm an idiot. You tell me why I'm an idiot. That's the important part. You tell me why I'm an idiot. And then I listen, and I'm better off for it. So I thank you, Jackie boy. But I'm still dropping Tatum. Get the fuck out of here. After all that, we went on a journey. We learned some things, and I'm still stubborn as fuck.
I love it. This is what makes for great podcasting.
Vodcasting, Jackie boy. Get it. Spread the word. Spread the word. That's what we do. We're vodcasters.
Oh, wow.
Jackie boy, let's move on. Shall we? Going from some top players to the top player, at least this season. Now, that's a segue, Jackie boy. Jokic does not belong in the top tier of NBA players. You ruined my segue with a shit take. Jackie boy, why is this an alternative fact?
Why I brought it up in the first place, Nick, is because Nate Duncan, the fun police of the NBA, same person who was criticizing Anthony Edwards and his field goal percentage after one of the great dunks of the season, if not the best dunk of the season, said this. He said, this fourth quarter defense shows why, despite a deserving MVP, I can't put Jokic in the absolute top tier of players. Phoenix got whatever they wanted in pick and roll, and he was powerless. Even if he's the best offensive player, limited defense at center is so hard to overcome. Now, I hate, we sort of just were arguing about the minutiae of players a little bit before, but I think that the way some people do it drags the fun away from enjoying plays, their exploits, their talents, and sort of disregards and sort of focuses on their negatives. Whereas I think how we discussed a little bit before was a fun back and forth, hyping up all the guys rather than sort of going, Devin Booker's trash. I mean, you did it a little bit with Jayson Tatum. But in all honesty, Jokic is in the upper echelon, top tier of players. And to discredit him based off what he's done this postseason, I think is a bit shallow and naive and while I know Nate Duncan knows a lot more about basketball than I do, he's lacking Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. is showing back issues that were relevant to why he dropped so low in the draft in the first place. And Aaron Gordon has gone back to Orlando Magic Aaron Gordon, and it's Facundo Campazzo that you're relying on, one of the most annoying players in the NBA, mind you. So I think that this is a little bit silly and a little bit fun policey. So I think that, if we're going top tier, we talked about tiers before. Jokic is way above the tiers that we were just discussing about Jayson Tatum, Booker and Mitchell. He's, in terms of what he did last year's postseason, Jokic is one of the great playoff performers we have seen in the past 2 or 3 years. He had a 30-20-10 night last night. What are we doing here, Nick? Talking about pick and roll defense as the main discrediting force from him being in like Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard's echelon. I don't give a shit. All those guys are top tier, and I think when we were discussing our best player in the NBA, we did mention Jokic. So I think it's worth us mentioning again that Jokic is in that conversation. And yes, while he may not be the two-way force of Kawhi or of Kevin Durant or even of LeBron James.
You don't have to be.
His mastery on the offensive end and his transcendence on that end of the floor almost is just like, look, and I think he's got better defensively. I think he deserves credit for that. But, what are we doing here, Nick?
Is it a stretch to say that he is the best offensive center in the league?
Ever?
Are we stretching this to ever? There we go. Mainly because of his passing. No other big man has been able to pass as other big men can score as well as Jokic. Maybe not in the variety that Jokic can, but the guy willed them over the Blazers. I mean, how short-term memory... I mean, I can't talk. I just dropped Tatum from my fucking team. The short-term memory loss that we as fans have, and I'm certainly guilty of it. Forget what happened in that Portland series and how many people took Portland at the start to beat the Nuggets, and then how convincing the Nuggets took care of it, really, in the grand scheme of things. And now, yes, they are down 3-0, and it's looking dire for Denver, and they have not played well. But they obviously have been shorthanded. Their number 2 has gone down. If we're giving Lakers excuses for bowing out in the first round, then this certainly applies for the Nuggets as well. Barton has been back for the past 2 games, 10 and 14 points respectively. Probably not the... he's just come back, from quite an injury. It's hard. It's hard for the Nuggets. They've obviously, this Phoenix Suns team is absolutely rolling. So confident after their Lakers series and 3-0 up. I mean, the death of the Suns now will be lack of experience and complacency, but 3-0 up, they're in a pretty good spot in this second round. Even if the Nuggets do bow out here, unless it's a sweep, it'll be a sweep will be disappointing. But again, Jack, what are we talking about the credentials of potentially the best offensive big man ever, and he doesn't deserve to be in the top tier of NBA because he's slightly bad on defense. What are we talking about? Russell Westbrook. He's more than slightly bad on defense. The guy has a few highlight blocks every now and then, but is such a sieve on defensive effort sometimes.
Look, Doncic isn't good at defense either.
Exactly. The arguments that get made for some players because of either personal vendettas, and I'm guilty of it as well. Like, there are players I don't like in the NBA, and I will conjure narratives, and I will nitpick. And
Justice coming up next, Nick. So save it for them, maybe.
True. But this is dumb, and I appreciate Nate Duncan. He's such a brilliant basketball head. The guy watches, I would wager, every game, every night. Like, the guy lives and breathes basketball. So I understand it, but for me, this is nonsense. Just appreciate what we're watching. I mean, it's amazing. It's never been seen before. It's never been done. It's just, fuck you. Just enjoy it. God damn, Jackie boy.
Yeah, I think that we sort of get. Yeah, I think we sort of get caught up in the sort of it's his job to sort of analyze it to the nth degree, and I get that. And I look, I think it's probably easier as more casual fans, and our living isn't required on it, and we don't necessarily have personas to live up to, or analytics sort of that to analyze or whatever in terms of the pick and roll points per possession that Nikola Jokic leads. And look, in all honesty, Nick, he's top tier. Giannis is top tier. Luka is top tier. All of these like great up and coming players. There is a tier of probably like 8 that we sort of discussed when we were discussing the best players in the league. That is a top tier. Listen to last week's podcast and the discussion we had, and that is the top tier of NBA players. We threw out plenty of names, and it's a very large tier. If you want to get like really nitpicky about it and go pick and roll defense, what about isolation defense? Get stuffed. Well, when we're gonna throw some slander, we'll throw some slander on Paul George. Give me that take.
Jackie boy, Paul George needs to show. In fact, shall we just play the video? I think we should just play the video. Let's let me set this up. I'm not ready. Now I'm ready. Oh no.
The broadcast all series has picked up a lot of you and Joe Ingles talking either in between plays or at the free throw line. What's your relationship with him like now? 3 years removed from the series when you were with Thunder. What are you guys good, or what's your relationship?
I don't care about him. Next question.
Thanks. Next we'll go to...
Mate, that's a spicy Paul George take. So, Jack, Paul George needs to show Joe Ingles some goddamn respect.
Factamundo, Factorino, Factorslino. Mate, Joe Ingles has outplayed Paul George. No, not in this series. But in a lot of respects, he has. Like, the way Joe Ingles started this game, by the way, the first quarter, Joe Ingles was making Paul George look like pandemic playoff P, like he'd forgotten all the vaccines and he was Michael Population Control Porter Jr. in a lot of respects.
There were a lot of nicknames for these people.
I do about 8 at once. But look, it's fun to discuss, and I think that these sort of like player vendettas and rivalries are good to talk about. And I think it's just funny because it's Joe Ingles. Like Joe Ingles,
players, yeah.
Like just like, why do you have like this weird hatred for a guy who looks like a math teacher playing basketball? Like it just makes no sense. Like he's getting under your skin. Like I get like Patrick Beverley, who has been an absolute C word to many of players, and Draymond Green and these sort of guys, but Joe Ingles just feels like the guy that'd like throw like weird banter at you, like at the free throw lines, like pandemic P, more like population control Paul George. Well, that one, mate. How you go? And it's just like, and Paul would just be like, oh, well, you give him a tech or some, and it's just like he played great today, and I give him full credit for a series that I think he's been okay in. I think he hasn't been horrible to the level of Jimmy Butler was in their first series, but not to the level of Kawhi Leonard, which I think he needs to elevate his game in to truly get this series over the Utah Jazz. But yeah, Joe Ingles has been playing awesome, especially in the absence of Mike Conley as well. He's fitted in seamlessly, and he's made some big shots. And the fact that he has got under Paul George's skin in a way that he has had such a dismissive answer, just shows like Paul George, Joe Ingles was cast away by Doc Rivers and the Los Angeles Clippers, and then Utah gave him a shot, and he earned a 4-year, $52 million contract. He's hitting 3 balls. He's a really good playmaker, a solid defender on guy that has much exceeding athleticism than he does, and he's just created himself to be a bit of a pest in a way that is certainly got under the skin of Paul George.
This man, Jackie boy, I know you can't see my screen, but I've zoomed in right onto Joe Ingles' basketball reference face. This man is having a beef with, someone who was in the MVP race, 5 years? No, was it? Oh, geez,
it was
man.
2 years ago. It was where they sort of got knocked out by it. Was, I actually remember listening to podcasts when I was in New York and hearing Paul George, yeah.
There you go. It's weird. It's weird because it's like this guy is supposed to be such an elite of the game and he's just beefing with a role player I guess he's more than a role player, but he does play a role, which is by definition a role player. Like he's contention for 6th man of the year, and this Utah team is I guess exacerbates his skills a wee bit, I think.
It's the system.
Of course. It's just weird. It's weird. Paul George needs to be, I guess, the superstar and be like, well, I guess that's what he's doing. It's like, I don't care about people like Joe Ingles.
Yeah, like James Harden and Giannis have beef. That makes sense. Because
both 2 superstars. Exactly.
They're not each other's heads. They're saying that one guy isn't skilled, has no talent or whatever. That's cool. That's a fun beef. But I kind of like this beat because, it sort of gets to our national pride and our Aussie heritage and our patriotism to defend Joe Ingles and Jingles and Aussie Thringles. We love Joe Ingles so much, and other than when he versus the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards, but it is a bit of a weird one, and I think Paul George does take weird slights seriously, whether it's social media or whether it's
he's all in
weird
his feelings. I mean, it's just classic Paul George, and he has been great in this series. That's undoubtedly, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the Clippers, and Paul George is one of those concerns. Whether these beasts, these whatever you want to call them, like these pissing contests that he seems to get into, will be detrimental to the Clippers, and maybe it'll ignite a fire in someone's belly. Who knows? But I think that he may. I mean, I wouldn't put my eggs in the Paul George basket, and I wouldn't exactly bet for him to continue on the run that he is, because if he does, I mean, the Clippers can make it all the way to the finals, but I just don't see the longevity there. But Paul George needs to show Ingles some damn respect. Probably not, because he should be acting like the superstar that he thinks he is. But it's Joe Ingles, and he's Australian, so fuck you, Paul George. Show Joe some goddamn respect. That's right.
Team Joe, and then maybe I should make a Team Joe shirt, because then it's also Joe Harris. Joe Harris, Joe Ingles, and
reusing material, Jackie boy.
About it, Nicky. All about it, my friend. But that was fun. That was a good pod.
That was a good
VOD. That was a good VOD.
The VOD. I mean, vodcast. I mean, this. Even I'm getting sick of it now, Jack. That just about does it for another week. So we'd just like to say thank you for tuning in to Just Ball Things, now in vodcast form. As always, you can catch us on Apple Vodcasts, Google Vodcasts, Pocket Casts, Player FM, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to your vodcasts, we will be there. If you're listening to us on Apple, leave us a rating and review. It does us heaps of favors. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Aggressive 5 stars. Aggressive 5 stars only. If you're catching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when fresh content comes out by the OTG network. That's right, Luna. Remember, it's you guys that make this show great, so we appreciate any and every post heading our way. So until next week.
Keep balling, superstars.
Mm-hmm.